to go so far as to say, oh, it's off limits.
Oh, they got a protector.
I think that's kind of weak. Now, some people will try to interpret it as, oh,
In a quarter mile, turn left onto US 34 East Ogden Avenue.
Diddy's victims.
It's all right.
He doesn't want to say anything because George Lopez has been at these parties. Okay?
George Lopez hasn't been at the
And
Diddy
the
party.
reality is, it would be harder to find people in Hollywood that haven't been to these parties.
This is a nice colorful decoration on the tree right here.
If you were someone or anyone in Hollywood in the music industry, you've been to these parties. So all of Hollywood, all of it, every freaking actor you can think of, every musician, they've been to these parties. I'm not saying they participated in crimes, but they've been there, and a lot of them did participate in crimes. So that's why you're seeing a lot of them be quiet. And it's weird because these celebrities are extremely vocal when it comes to politics. We had to hear their political opinions shoved down our throats.
In a quarter mile, turn right to stay on Waubonsee Lane.
Oh, we can't talk about that. We can tell you how to feel. A Google search and find pictures of us at Diddy's parties. But we'll continue to watch this circus, and hopefully Diddy does get held accountable. But I think we're going to see something like what we've seen before. Either Diddy unalives himself or something. But at the end of the day, I don't think that we're going to see
more
these
Christmas
videos,
lights
and I don't think we're going to see other celebrities go down with Diddy. I'm hoping that's what we'll see.
How's everybody doing? Like, subscribe, share, hit that thumbs up,
The same playbook that we saw with Epstein. Distract, distract, distract. You know, throw out all of this nonsense, and before you know it, the guy's gone, and no questions or any notes. And for now, let me know your thoughts below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell. And I'll talk to you all soon for the next one.
Fuck you, Tammo. Oh, there's that little pull-up. Fuck you, Tammo. Fuck Tammo. It's all garbage out there.
Why is she here?
Tammo sucks dick.
This instant.
Get away from my dad!
Listen to your father.
Oh, cool.
The Joe Rogan experience.
One of the things that I want to talk to you about is the JFK files. And one of the things that you said was that if they showed you what they showed me, this is your quote, you wouldn't want people to know it either.
Take the next right to stay on Waubonsee Lane.
I opened them up partially.
Oh, wow.
I was met with, from good people, I mean, good people. People that were well-meaning. Mike Pompeo was one of them. He's a good person. They called me, they said, sir, would rather have you not.
In a quarter mile, turn left onto Old Tavern Road.
But I was asked by some people not to open them. There's a Martin Luther King file, too, by the way, that they'd like to see. I don't know if you know, but there is that. But JFK in particular.
That's boring. It's
So
all white.
they called me, a lot of good people called me. People that...
Is it just me, or does everyone notice, like, this year, an extremely lot less people decorated their house this year than every Christmas for the prior, like, 7 years? Is it just me, or does anyone else notice that, too? Like, even up to, like, well, actually for the last 2 to 3 years. If you go 3 years prior, there were so many more houses decorated with Christmas lights compared to what there is this Christmas, or even the last 2 Christmases.
You know, that you would find reasonable people. And they asked me not to do it, so I said, well, we'll close it for another time. But if I win, I'm going to open them up. I'm just going to open enough time.
Why didn't you open it up the first time?
Because
Take the next left onto Old Tavern Road.
Addresses, people that are still living. There are people that are affected. And there could be some national security reason that that I don't have to necessarily know about, but some very
In
good
1,000
talented
feet,
people
turn
asked me
left
not to
onto
do
US
it.
34
I
East,
opened
Ogden
it up,
Avenue.
and then they said, would it be possible for us to do that a different day?
How much of
Nobody-
it did you read into?
I think it's going to be just fine to open it. Let me put it that way. I think it's fine. It's going to be time. It's a cleansing, it's really a cleansing. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it immediately, almost immediately
Oh,
upon
yeah.
entering office.
Well, the thing, when people look at it from the outside and you sort of imagine what could be a reason why they
Yeah.
would not release those files, it would be
At the light,
there's
turn left
people
onto
that were
US 34
implicated
East,
in the
Ogden Avenue.
assassination.
Well, when they're living people, you generally tend not to want to do it. When people are still living,
Living people that formerly worked for the government.
for the government, and living people that were somehow involved in it, and you tend not to do that. But it's time to open them.
I think there's some Christmas lights up
I
here.
can't tell you whether or not they
Continue on
find anything
US
of interest.
34 East for
And I
3
did
miles.
partially open. I think I've opened 50%, but I was asked not to do it, and I thought that was a reasonable ask. But now I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it very soon.
Do it.
There's a lot of
Do
interest
it.
in it.
Do it,
One of
Trump.
the things that
There's a
I'm
lot of interest in the people coming from space,
Yes.
And I know you're interested
Oh,
in
I'm
that.
very interested in that. How much did they tell you about that?
A lot.
Really?
Yeah.
What did they tell you? How much can you tell?
I
How's that work? Is it like
I
super
think
top
I
secret?
Can tell, you know,
Tell
I think,
me.
Well, based on I can say whatever the hell
Yeah.
I want. Right? No. But I interviewed
Hell
a
no.
few people. It's never been my thing, I have to be honest.
Is that
I have
what
never been a
everybody-
believer. I have people that Area 51 or whatever it is.
Mhm.
I think it's the #1 tourist attraction in the whole country or something. Area 51 in Las Vegas. Do you know that, right?
Sure,
I
I
didn't
know
know
what it
that.
is.
So anyway, but it's a big tourist thing. So I
Oh, I
interviewed
saw some
jet
badges
pilots
over here.
that say they saw something.
Head
you
south
saw
toward
them, I'd
US
love to have
34
them.
East,
I've had a
Ogden
couple in
Avenue.
there. Commander David Fravor.
Yeah.
I had him in, who had that sighting in 2004. Very, very compelling with
I got the
visual
stuff
video
behind the
evidence,
gate.
radar evidence.
I interviewed.
Ryan Graves.
I don't believe his name, but I interviewed jet pilots that were solid people. Perfect. I mean, great pilots, great everything. And they said, we saw things, sir, that were very strange. Like a round ball, but it wasn't a comet or a meteor. It was something. And it was going 4 times faster than an F-22, which is a very fast plane,
Damn.
And it was round. Which is in theory a great shape.
So when you were talking to these
Take the
people,
next left onto
was
US
this
34 East,
something
Ogden
that
Avenue.
you were compelled to have conversations
No.
about? Was this
That
your
wasn't a
personal
bad
interest?
situation.
a little bit. It's not.
Continue
a
on
great
US
interest.
34
It's a
East
little
for 3
interest.
miles.
I
you
get that
guys hear
question
it
as much
okay?
as
Comment
almost
if you
any
can hear the
question.
sound.
Do you think that we have aliens coming, flying around or whatever?
What do you think?
So what do you guys think? Are there aliens? You know, like just over Washington, D.C., supposedly there was a bunch of UFO lights, and then over England, over our military bases, they think there was a bunch of UFOs too. I'll let this continue now.
There's no reason not to. I mean, there's no reason not to think that Mars and all these planets don't have life.
Right, I
because
agree.
Well,
we-
Mars, we've had probes there and
Well,
rovers,
yeah,
and I don't think there's any life there.
Well, maybe it's life that we don't know, but maybe
Well,
it's
maybe
a
there was
different
life
kind
there
of-
at one point in time.
I think there might be like microbial, like micro, super tiny life, or there might be life like deep under the planet of Mars, like not like big life, but life you would need like a microscope to see. That's like like on the really small scale. I do believe there's like bacteria life on Mars, in my opinion. Continuing on.
This is a speculation about Mars, that Mars had an atmosphere at one point in time, a long time ago, that could support life. It also had large bodies of water, but we've had no evidence of even bacterial life that exists on Mars. But the
It's
universe
not
is
been a
pretty
big
vast.
thing
There's the
for me.
Christmas
I mean, when I looked at what China did to this, they would have never done it with me, where they put the
No,
balloon
they
up.
wouldn't have.
And
Mhm.
a lot of people thought for a little while that was
Right.
one of these things. So,
Well, that's a lot of the speculation, too, that some of these drones that
Could
hover
be.
over battleships, that these are Chinese drones, and that they're not UFOs.
It could be also.
There's some super
But I
sophisticated.
did interview,
Trump knows.
let's say 3 or 4 guys that, and without tremendous interest, if you
Nice.
had them, as I said, you'd love to have them as your children. Solid.
In 1,000 feet,
Beautiful
turn right onto
people.
Burlington Avenue.
They said, sir, there's something there. They
There's something
said
there.
there's yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to quite a few of
They're
them.
not conspiracy guys.
Well, I mean, the Commander David Fravor thing in 2004 off the coast of San Diego, they clocked that thing going from 50 above sea level to 50 in a second. They don't know what it
That's
is.
tough to beat.
Yeah, they saw something in the water. It was hovering over that something that was making a disturbance in the water. They got video evidence of this thing. The two different fighter jets with pilots in them saw it. There's,
At the
visual
light,
evidence,
turn right onto
photographic
Burlington
evidence,
Avenue.
video evidence, radar evidence, whatever the hell it is. It moves in a way that would turn a human being into jello if they were inside of it. The G-force, no one would survive.
Oh,
so
the
like, what is
G-force.
that? And we don't. It doesn't have a heat signature. They don't know what their propulsion system was.
In 600 feet,
When you
turn left
feel
onto
like
Center
someone
Avenue.
else
Can you all hear it good?
These pilots have
Is
to
there
be
too
in
much
great
bass?
shape.
Do
Oh
I
yeah,
gotta adjust
I flew
the
with the
bass?
Blue Angels once.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as
I
an
got to
example.
fly. I
And
got to
those
do
are
the
bass,
A18,
And those are older machines.
and they're crazy.
When you
Take the
when
next
you fly
left
in
onto
some
Center
of these
Avenue.
things, it's amazing. Yeah, but
Yeah, I can imagine.
You got to be special.
Fuck, did I get a fucking sound setting?
In 800 feet, turn right onto US 34 East Ogden Avenue.
Oh, this is about the Washington, D.C. aliens. There we go.
Never pay
See,
for
where's all the
Wi-Fi
fucking
again.
Christmas lights at?
InstaBridge is a free.
There's no fucking Christmas lights out. Like, nobody's decorating this year. It's been like this for the last 2 years. Because fucking Joe Biden's bitch ass and people can't afford electricity.
Turn right onto US 34 East Ogden Avenue.
Fuck Biden. He's a dickhead. And then he pardons his son. Imagine if Trump pardoned his son. Oh, that would be like World War III. They would put Trump in jail for it. But they don't try doing that to Biden.
Continue on US 34 East for 1.5
Just
miles.
within the last 12 to 18 hours has sent shockwaves across the internet. So there's an alleged UFO sighting over Capitol Hill. You're looking at a picture right now. What makes this picture interesting, though, and I want you to stay on, this image captured by an...
Oops, sorry. Hold on. I have to turn my ass from... Oh, I don't think I lost the video. Hold on, it's coming back. So low, it's a little slow. Let's turn down a random street and see if we can see some more Christmas lights. Oh, that's a big, nice abandoned parking lot. There we go. UFOs over Washington. Let's see if this random block's got Christmas decorations.
Make a U-turn, then turn left onto US 34 East. Take the next left onto Basswood Drive, then make a U-turn.
See, those are the UFO lights over Washington, D.C. This man's gonna expose them.
Make a U-turn, then turn right onto Arborview Drive.
There we go. That's better. Look at that. Ah. Perfect.
Thank you. I will now recognize Mr. Moskowitz for a 5-minute introduction.
This is about the UFO hearings. It's weird how they're doing all these UFO hearings. Here's some Christmas lights.
That will be entered into the congressional record today. Mr. Tim Burchett from Tennessee has this document, and we just distributed it to every member up here at the dais of this document. But this is going to be the original documents from the Pentagon about Immaculate Constellation.
In a quarter mile, turn right
that
onto
Michael
Arborview Drive.
Schellenberger delivered to Congress today. So thank you, Mr. Schellenberger, for this information. We are all reading it in real time now, and Mr. Burchett will enter it into the
You guys
record.
hear it
12
okay?
pages about this unacknowledged special access program that your government says does not exist.
Thank you very much, Chairwoman. I want to thank the Chairwoman and
And the chairman,
There's a
both
big
for their
Santa.
continued support.
The first section talks about the unacknowledged special access program called Immaculate Constellation. And the second section about
Nobody's really
USG
decorated this year.
intelligence.
For like the last
and,
3 years
Representative
now,
Luna just
ever
told
since
me if I
Biden
say
took power.
Immaculate Constellation,
Oh, that's
I'll
cool.
be on some list. Maybe a fire warrant. So
25 days till
involved,
Christmas.
I guess, but
Oh, my birthday's coming up too.
In a time of heightened distrust of our
Before
government
Christmas.
institutions, I believe more transparency is not only needed but is possible. And obviously, we can respect national security limits, but we also have to provide
Man,
our
nobody's got fucking
constituents
Christmas decorations
with
out.
the
Here's
information
some.
and oversight that
At least
they
it's
have
colorful.
asked us for.
And not
there
like
been any, to
one
your
bald
knowledge, any
plain color. Here's
communication
another one.
with a non
See, I like colorful Christmas lights, not where you just decorate your whole front yard either with like white lights or blue lights. That's ugly. That's nice and colorful.
And so I would say definitively yes, but from a nonverbal meaning, when a Russian reconnaissance aircraft comes into U.S. airspace, we scramble 2 F-22s, and we are certainly communicating intent.
Take the next right onto Arborview Drive.
I think the same goes with this. We have these things that are being observed
State boy
over
there.
controlled U.S. airspace, and
this
they're not
car
really
must
doing a
look
good job
there.
hiding themselves. They're making it pretty obvious they have the ability to even interfere with our nuclear equities.
Our third witness is Mr. Michael Schellenberger, founder of the newsletter Public.
Our best tool for unlocking the mystery.
In 1,000 feet, turn left onto Hatch
We
Lane.
cannot conduct a proper inquiry if the stigma is so overwhelming that just daring to be part of the NASA research team
There's, like, no good
elicits
Christmas
such a
lights out this
vitriolic
year.
response. Therefore, one of the most important actions that can be taken relative to exposing the truth of UAP is to combat the stigma. And this is where I believe that NASA can be eminently helpful.
Our first witness is retired Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet.
Looking for lights on the side streets, I don't see
and is
shit.
now the chief.
As the saying goes, the truth is out there. We just need to be bold enough and brave enough to face it.
Mr. Burchett for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Requesting M's consent to enter into the record.
Yeah, that's better. Oh, cool! Look, they got the projector. See? I got a projector like that. I should put it on my house. Oh, look, they got blow up reindeer there too.
Kept in the dark to spare the Pentagon a little bit of embarrassment. The reality is, despite their enormous taxpayer-funded budgets, the transparency of the Defense Department and the intelligence community have long been abysmal. The Pentagon has failed 6 consecutive audits. In fact, it's never actually passed one. Adding to this is
You
a
guys hear
runaway
it okay? Should I turn down the
overclassification
bass
of
with the trembo
documents
up?
and materials, a reluctance to declassify materials when appropriate, and at times an outright refusal to share critical information with Congress. In short, it's not a track record that instills trust. So Congress has tried in recent years to lift the veil and find out if information about UAPs is being withheld, not only from the American public, but also from their elected representatives in Congress. Part of the transparency effort was legislation created in the Pentagon, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, but the new office is struggling to get its footing. A recent statutorily required report from AARO, intended to illuminate the government's historic assessment of UAPs, was heavily criticized by those seeking UAP transparency. The report has stoked suspicions AARO is unable, or perhaps unwilling, to bring forward the truth about the government's activities concerning UAPs. I'm disturbed that AARO itself lacks transparency. Even its budget is kept from the public. So if there is no there, then why are we spending money on it And by how much? Why the secrecy if it's really no big deal and there's nothing there? Why hide it from the American people? Because I'm not a mathematician, but I can tell you that doesn't add up. I expect some of our witnesses to share their views on that Arrow report. We will also hear from the witnesses today allegations of UAP-related misinformation and disinformation by government officials, of which they are personally aware and directly experienced. And we will hear testimony today concerning recent revelations about a purportedly secret UAP program whose existence and findings may have been improperly withheld from Congress. But before we get to the witnesses, we're going to have a few more opening statements from our colleagues. And one thing I wanted to add at the end of my closing statement is there is a document that will be entered into the congressional record today. Mr. Tim Burchett from Tennessee has this document, and we just distributed it to every member up here on the dais of this document. But this is going to be the original document from the Pentagon about Immaculate Constellation that Michael Schellenberger delivered to Congress today. So thank you, Mr. Schellenberger, for this information. We are all reading it in real time now, and Mr. Burchett will enter it into the record. But 12 pages about this unacknowledged special access program that your government says does not exist. So with that, I would acknowledge my colleagues, Mr. Garcia. I want to say, first of all, to Mr. Connolly, who cannot be here today, the ranking member on my subcommittee on cybersecurity, I want to say that I was greatly saddened to hear about the recent news of Mr. Connolly's cancer diagnosis, and I want to convey to him and to all of our colleagues, we wish our very best to you and a full and speedy recovery. And with that, I would acknowledge Mr. Garcia for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chairwoman. I want to thank the Chairwoman and the Chairman both for their continued support and really treating this discussion and these hearings in a way that's bipartisan. I think one thing that's very important for all of us that are interested in the conversation around UAPs is that this is an area that both Republicans and Democrats, where we may disagree in a lot of other spaces, this is an area where bipartisanship is really important. And in fact, I would add it's critical we all continue to work together in a way that moves forward with the truth and important disclosure. So we're here to have a bipartisan and serious conversation, I believe, about our national security. We should always ground these conversations in facts, evidence, and the data in front of us. I want to note that we have our witnesses here. I want to thank you all for being here, and note that also amongst you have folks that have also served us in our military. And I know that for many of you, this has been a difficult process, but I'm very grateful to have you with us today, and I thank you for joining us. I also want to note that today's hearing builds on a quite, I think, also historic public hearing that we had many months ago that Mr. Grothman and others helped lead in this very same hearing room, where I believe we began a really important public conversation about UAPs. And so I want to thank him for that, and I especially want to thank Chairwoman Mace for her continued advocacy on this topic. I also want to start with some facts. We know that there are objects or phenomena observed in our airspace, as your witnesses will testify, and also possibly in our oceans. In many cases, we don't know what they are, and this is, of course, why we're discussing UAPs. Now, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, has reported hundreds of UAPs that remain, quote, uncharacterized and unattributed, and which, quote, appear to have demonstrated unusual flight characteristics or performance capabilities and require further analysis. This is our own AARO office. Now, we shouldn't prejudge what they might be. I'm certainly not going to. We need evidence. But when we are detecting things and we know that we don't understand them, and this is worth investigating. Now, the American people have legitimate questions, and I believe it's critical that Congress should help address them. This is about the truth and science and facts. Now, transparency and faith in our institutions is vital in a good democracy. Now, I'm proud to say this hearing will build on that important bipartisan work, and I want to thank everyone for being involved, including members of our committee. Now, in our last hearing in July, we heard testimony that a significant number of pilots of major airlines have witnessed UAPs as well, but have no real confidential way of them to the government. We heard that commercial pilots who encounter UAPs may be hesitant to speak openly due to stigma or fear of retaliation. We also know that AARO has reported that, and I want to quote, that most reports still reflect a bias towards restricted military airspace, a result of reporting from military personnel and sensors present in such areas. And so the lack of ability for civilian pilots
raises real safety concerns, limits our ability to understand UAPs. This is a particular piece of this conversation that I am very interested in. Now, our last hearing inspired us to introduce the Safe Airspace for Americans Act, joined by Chairman Rothwin, Chairwoman Mace, and a bipartisan group of co-sponsors. I see some
That's
of our
nice
leaders
and colorful.
from
I like
Safe
that.
Airspace for Americans Act here. And that would create
That one's nice and that
safe
looks very
reporting for
Christmassy.
UAP process, which we want to continue.
That
to do.
doesn't.
Now, members of both parties and senior
that one
officials
does.
in multiple administrations have now taken
I guess
an
the lights
interest
on the
in
roof
this
kind of
issue.
do, but not all that
Mainstream
all
media,
white
in many
shit.
cases, is beginning to take more of an interest in this issue, and we should all be proud to do that work and build confidence for the American people. I believe we can always be more transparent. To me, this hearing and others are simply about the truth and getting to the facts of what these UAPs actually are. It's very important that we show that Democrats and Republicans in Congress can work together to cut through misinformation and look for a serious and thoughtful way to have the discussion in public. Many of us have also called for additional public hearings to discuss UAPs. This should be a topic that continues on throughout the Congress so we can gather more information, data, and work with the relevant agencies to gather more information. Finally, just want to add that those that are here on the dais, many of us have participated also in classified briefings as well, and where we have also gained a lot of important, I think, and interesting information, at least I personally have. And so with that information, we want to continue today's hearing, and I thank all of our witnesses for being here. And with that, I'd like to yield back.
If you're turning 65 or beyond, you're going to want to watch this. There are a lot of people today that are Medicare eligible that
this hearing, and I thank all of our witnesses for being here. And with that, I'd like to yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia, and I'd now like to recognize Mr. Grothman for a 5-minute introduction.
Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to thank our witnesses for being here one more time. This is a topic I've been interested in since 8th grade. I'd like to thank Ms. Mace for working with me on this topic and for making this a joint subcommittee hearing. Last year, the Subcommittee on National Security of the Board of Foreign Affairs held an historic hearing to understand the potential national security risk of unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs. We heard from former Navy Commander David Fravor, who shared first-hand experience with UAP engaged while on duty in the Pacific. We learned from David Gresh, a former member of the intelligence community, who revealed the supposed existence of secret government programs hidden from congressional oversight. Additionally, former military pilot Ryan Graves informed us of the limited ways in which the military and commercial pilots can report UAP sightings. Since that last hearing, I've led several briefings with government agencies to deepen my understanding of these issues. First, the Department of Defense Inspector General's Office informed us that the Department of Defense does not have a streamlined process for service members to report UAP activity. Since then, the Joint Chiefs have implemented standards for UAP reporting across the services. The Intelligence Community Inspector General informed us that whistleblowers often fear retaliation for reporting mismanagement of highly sensitive government projects or information. Finally, AARO has expressed to the committee that, like any other federal government agency, it's faced challenges in its establishment, specifically in hiring staff to manage UAP historical records and coordinating with other federal agencies. While these agencies have been helpful to us in understanding the challenges that come from collecting UAP data, none of them have been able to substantiate the claims made at this hearing last year by David Rush. Despite our committee members endlessly questioning these agencies inside and outside of a SCIF, I hope our witnesses today will be able to provide evidence and content that is worthwhile to our pursuits of eliminating government waste and increasing transparency. To help alleviate some of the roadblocks, I'm supportive of measures that were included in last year's National Defense Authorization Act to increase transparency and improve record-keeping measures when it comes to UAPs.
Can you guys hear it okay?
There's still more work to go. I co-led the Safe Airspace for Americans Act with Ranking Member Garcia, which requires the Federal Aviation Administration to develop procedures to collect UAP data from civilian aviators. I look forward to working with members of Congress to see that this legislation and other UAP legislation crosses the finish line. I'm deeply alarmed by the reporting of the massive drone swarm that flew over Langley Air Force Base in Virginia last December. Langley is the home of the 1st Fighter Wing, which maintains half of the F-22's in the U.S. Air Force inventory. Reports of this incident indicate these drones were roughly 20 feet long, flying more than 100 miles an hour at an altitude of over 3,000 feet. Yet the origin of these drones and their operators remains a mystery. This incident and other sightings near sensitive military installations highlights the complexity of the UAP challenge facing our intelligence, defense, and homeland security committees. Whether these phenomena are the result of foreign adversaries developing advanced technologies or something else entirely, we must take them seriously, investigate them thoroughly, and assess their implications on national defense. The repeated UAP sightings around sensitive military sites underscores the need for innovative defensive strategies beyond traditional measures. They also highlight the urgent need for updated policies to address emerging threats as well as more effective interagency cooperation and intelligence sharing. However, none of this is going to be possible without transparency. For far too long, critical information about UAPs is either classified or ignored, leaving the American public and key congressmen without clarity needed to make informed decisions. Declassifying reports and fostering a more open dialogue about UAPs will not only increase the public trust, but also encourage collaboration between government, the scientific community, and our allies. Quite frankly, there's been things that have been kept secret that is, I think, old enough that there is no reason it shouldn't be released, regardless of any so-called,
I gotta start a new video for this. Like, subscribe, share, thumbs up.
information. A transparent approach